Hello everyone and welcome to Position Specific and welcome back to the coaching journey to week 10. So week 10, we've got a couple of game plan and game reviews for you in this particular setup, but we'll dive into it straight away and we'll explain exactly what we're going to talk about and what we're going to show you. Okay, so week 10, we've arrived in Hawaii now, so these are our first couple of games at the regional tournament in Hawaii. So we've got a game plan against Three Rivers, a team from Washington, who we will obviously talk about the game plan first, and then obviously talk about the review of the game. And then the second game was against Alaska Rush, obviously from Alaska. And we'll talk about the game plan leading into that game and the game review as well. But just bear in mind, like the game plans are a little bit kind of, obviously we don't know too much about these teams, and I'll explain that as we go along. So the game plan's a little bit of kind of what we've picked up from what we've seen, catching back ends of games kind of when our games are finished. And having a quick look at other teams and seeing what we can kind of figure out and what we can put together in terms of a game plan. But I'll get to that at the point when we come to the game plans. But let's dive straight into it with the first game plan against Three Rivers. So interestingly enough, we actually managed to get a little bit of footage of this particular team from a tournament from another coach whose team was at a tournament in Las Vegas and played against this particular team. So we were able to get a tiny little bit of footage of this team playing, just enough to kind of figure out that they were playing a little bit of a 4-3-3, but a lot of the time it looked like a 4-4-2. And that's just purely because of one of their centre forwards or their attacking midfield player would be very high a lot of the time up against the centre backs, opposition centre backs. So we took it a little bit more as a 4-4-2, and we made a note that they were quite narrow in midfield with their midfield four. So they'd come quite narrow when they were defending. So that got us thinking a little bit, and we just realised that we noticed that they were very direct. So they didn't play out from the back at all. They went long from goal kicks, and whenever the goalkeeper had the ball, they went long from his, whether it's on the floor or out of his hands. So we knew we were kind of up against a team that had a little bit of pace, played a 4-4-2, and were quite direct. So obviously we needed to try and prepare the boys as best we could for that, without any training sessions, etc. But again, just having a look at the game model of the four phases and how that fits into what we kind of knew we were going to be coming up against. So obviously knowing that a team of quite direct, we knew that we were going to have to be really good in obviously like high press and low press. I mean, we're calling it high press and low press, but obviously like when the goalkeeper's kicking it out of his hands or where they've got a goal kick, you obviously set up in your high press structure, which means you'll have a high defensive line somewhere in and around the halfway line. So we've made it clear to the boys it was really important that they dealt with that direct play, winning first contact, whether that be a header, or whether that would be a volley or a half volley, or just getting first contact or enough contact where we could force a mistake out of the opposition when they were trying to bring it down, and obviously win possession from there. And then same if we were defending a little bit lower in and around our own box. We'd still need to obviously try and be aggressive in terms of a press and try and set up and force the opposition wide, but we still needed to be able to deal with that direct play, or just be tight and aggressive when the ball came into players' feet, and try and get there quickly and defend as much as we could. So we knew that defensive organisation was going to be really important, and then from there as well we understood that attacking transition was going to be important as well, because sometimes like if you're playing against direct play you can get pinned back a little bit. And we understood that if we won the ball, especially in our own half, we'd need to be good in attacking transition and not panic and try and rush forward, and try and keep possession of the ball and allow us to get into our attacking organisation shape. And from there, attacking organisation, I'll talk a little bit about it on the next slide in terms of like the system matchup, but we knew that our midfield players were going to be kind of our free players in playing out. So we knew that, especially from goal kicks and when the centre-backs were on the ball, because of the 4-4-2, we knew that our number 6 or our defensive midfield player was going to be the one that's going to have most space, and it's whether we could get him on the ball and get him turned, whether he could, and then find the other midfielders, depending on what their midfield pair in midfield that the opposition were going to have, what they do. And obviously play from there. So we kind of, around the game model, we knew kind of what to expect, and we kind of knew, or the boys knew kind of how we have to play this game to obviously try and get a result. But moving on to obviously part of the game model and the systems of play in the 10 systems. Now obviously we knew that obviously this team were pretty much a 4-4-2. Obviously, like one of the centre forwards would drop a little bit deeper now and again, but we knew that there'd be pretty much a 4-4-2. So we spoke to our boys a little bit about obviously, like especially our defensive midfield players staying connected to our centre backs to help keep a +1 against that 2 up front. And obviously, and then in possession, he could go back into his normal position, and hopefully that would cause them a few problems in terms of like him getting on the ball in the midfield. But we knew that defending we'd need to be close to a 3-4-3 against a 4-4-2. So that was kind of the game plan leading into the game. So just to reiterate and check on a couple of things in terms of attacking organisation, especially around the playing out part of it when you're playing against a 4-4-2. So what we tend to do is we tend to set up in our normal structure because nothing really changes. And like we say before, like even if we're playing against the 3-5-2 or other systems, we always like one of the so-called back three to be in between the 2 centre forwards and off the shoulders. We always talk about that playing out as a back three. If you have all 3 of your kind of 3 centre backs in front of the 2 centre forwards, then the 2 centre forwards can see all 3 players and see the ball as well. So we always like one to go in between the 2 centre forwards, and obviously they can make movements off the shoulder, or if they can get to the point where they create a little bit of distance in between the 2 centre forwards, then obviously we can play the ball through to our defensive midfielder and get him on the ball and get him turned. And obviously from there it just depends what the other 2 midfielders do, and that's what we'll show you in a second. But in terms of structure, absolutely normal. So two centre backs with the goalkeeper supporting low. Second line will be our 2 full backs and our defensive midfield player. Third line will be our other 2 centre midfield players, nice and high. Again, trying to be off the shoulders of the other 2 midfield players to create a little bit of space for our defensive midfield player in possession. And then the fourth line would be our centre forward and our 2 wide forwards, high and wide. And again, we were just prepared for what we thought might be a little bit of a structure too, and that just depended on if what their midfield did, if our defensive midfield player was getting on the ball and causing problems, and we were just prepared for one of their players to obviously jump onto him or move onto him in terms of obviously trying to stop him getting on the ball and trying to stop him playing. So we were prepared for that, and we spoke to the boys about obviously if that's the case, depending on which midfielder it was, becoming a double pivot as you can see now, and obviously that just then creating space for our number 9. Or our number 7, or white number 7 in this particular picture, our wide forward, just to drop into that space that was left by their midfielder and our midfielder, obviously becoming a double pivot. So seeing if we could hit that and get him in that space and get him turned. It doesn't have to be the number 9, it can also be the number 7 as well, but just creating that box in midfield and overloading that midfield area, especially with their 2 wide forwards or their 2 left and right midfielders narrow as well, trying to stop anything through the middle, which obviously would create space for our fullbacks to go and get high and wide as well. So that was kind of the plan in terms of attacking organisation, and which worked quite well, which I'll show you on a couple of the clips in a minute. In terms of those types of structures, etc. But just again having a look at reiterating defensive organisation in terms of high press and low press, and again we're talking about these things in high press and low press, but ultimately it was actually dealing with direct play, and something that lots of young teams struggle with, especially the heading part of the game. And obviously the whole starting position, body shape, and then obviously moving, with play or getting ready to drop if there's no pressure on the ball, and then obviously dealing with that direct play, which is always going to be a struggle for young teams. But this is how we were going to kind of set up in terms of our structure. So if the goalkeeper had the ball in his hands, or if the 2 centre backs had it, or if it was a goal kick, obviously we were still going to maintain our high pressing structure. With obviously our first line being our centre forward and our 2 wide forwards nice and high and compact. Obviously we're looking to force wide if they do play out, and obviously we're ready to press if that's the case. Second line was going to be our 2 centre midfielders and our 2 full-backs. So our 2 full-backs will be a little bit further forward and on the inside, with their right and left midfielder, depending if they were there or if they were out wide. If they were out wide, they'd just be a little bit deeper and would be more or less a back 5 in this situation. Third line was going to be our defensive midfield player, and then our fourth line was going to be our 2 centre backs, narrow and compact. So again, just depending on what their centre forwards were doing. If their centre forwards were high up against our centre backs, then our defensive midfielder, our number 6 or our white number 6 in this picture, would stay connected to the two centre-backs. And obviously like be there to try and win either first contact or second contact if the two centre-backs win it as well. But that was really important that he stays connected to those two, so we don't have that kind of that equal numbers on our defensive line. We still have that +1, and then as I said, it's really important that we try and deal with that direct play as much as we can, and try and deal with the second ball as well. So wherever it bounces, wherever we win first contact or get first contact or force a mistake, can we get that second contact as well? So that was the game plan, and obviously like we again, when you kind of having meetings with the boys rather than obviously showing them in training, it's a little bit different. And obviously trying to get them to take on this information. A lot of this stuff they've done before, but obviously like trying to get them to take on this information and executing the game was always going to be the difficult part. But let's have a look at the game in terms of the game review. And like I said, really interesting game because of what the opposition were kind of posing and the threats that they were posing in their 4-4-2, and obviously that they're playing direct. And in all honesty, we struggled with the direct play a little bit, and we'll get into that in a second. But what we came up against was system of play was a negative matchup, purely because obviously they were in a 4-4-2, and for the majority of the game they were full on 4-4-2. So the two centre forwards were right up against our two centre backs, which is okay. It's fine, but obviously in possession you want your defensive midfielder to exploit that space in between those two centre forwards and those two centre midfield players, which we did really well. The issue we had in the game was obviously him not staying connected out of possession up against those two centre forwards and dealing with that direct play. But we'll have a look at some attacking organisation, kind of some performance problems to start with, and it was all around playing in. We actually played out from our goalkeeper and from our two centre backs quite well, and we had lots of success in terms of playing out and playing around and through this team, especially through our defensive midfield player, because obviously he had lots of space against this particular system. Which we'll show you in a few clips now. The issue we had was actually playing in. So we always talk about, and I'll reiterate this when we get into the metrics as well, is we always talk about obviously our playing out kind of target is obviously 50%, and that's 50% getting, when we have the ball, is getting over the halfway line with a controlled dribble or a controlled pass in a controlled state. So the clips I'm going to show you shows that we get over the halfway line in a controlled state a lot of the time. The problems we had was obviously then building from that, and our playing in is 30% of the time. Can we get into the opposition's penalty area and obviously create chances and have shots on target? That's what we struggle with. So we were good in terms of playing out and getting over the halfway line in a controlled state, but then it broke down a little bit from there, which is what I'll show you in the clips that we have. And we just, for whatever reason, just didn't have enough movement and ideas in terms of the playing in. But let's have a look at some clips just to show that. So the first couple of clips I'm going to show you is stuff that could be better, but I'll also show you like great bits of the playing out kind of scenarios that we had. So really comfortable in terms of playing out. We managed to obviously create lots of space and drag the opposition to one side of the pitch a lot, and then obviously create opportunities to go forward and play through, as you can see here. So great ball, great turn. Now it's one of them now where in this position here, we're looking for him to either, I know he's under a bit of pressure, but looking for him to drive forward in terms of breaking over that halfway line, or in this situation now, he's probably picked the hardest pass out of two, because he could have just rolled it straight into our wide forward or our number 11 on the far side, who's got like some time and space, and then we could have maybe worked a little bit of movement from there. But he's tried to play through straight away to our centre forward. It's just not quite worked, and it was an easy one for them to pick up and stop. And we had a lot of those moments in and around the halfway line where we do well and get into positions where we could get over the halfway line and break, and then it kind of broke down from there. And this is another clip of that as well. So as you can see here, so if I pause it there, so that's our centre back playing in between our two centre forwards, the two centre forwards into our defensive midfield player. As you can see, he's got a player in and around him, so we've created a little bit of a double pivot with our attacking midfielder, and they play 2v1 against this particular player. Work it really well, work it into a situation. Again, now look, so here he is driving over the halfway line, really good position. As you can see, the other centre midfield player is starting to edge towards him, and it leaves our other attacking midfielder on the left-hand side completely free. But again, decision making, choice of pass, not quite right. Tries to play to the player who's got three players around him, when a better choice could have been into our other attacking midfield. And we had lots of moments like that where we got over the halfway line and then it broke down. But when it did work well, it did okay. So again, good situation here, over the halfway line in a controlled state. Good terms of possession, keeping it going. I'm just going to pause it here now because I thought here now were more or less a 2v1 against their right fullback, and I just thought a little bit of movement in beyond from our left wide forward could have forced the issue for our midfielder to play him through. Didn't happen in the case, and obviously we decided to come back this side again. So a little bit more quality. Probably could have got our wide forward on this side, our right wide forward into the box and running at their centre back. Didn't quite work out. But again, now from here, we just struggled a little bit with ideas in terms of obviously losing the ball there instead of protecting it, and then we could have continued to attack in their half and sustain that attack there. And these little moments here where we might have re-won it and gone again. But when it was good, it was really good. So this is our second goal of the game. We actually ended up losing this game 3-2, and I'll show you the performance problems around high press and low press in a minute in the direct play. Which caused us to lose 3-2. But this is our second goal in the game, which is a really good. So over the halfway line, control state, really good little through ball, really good little individual play here, and obviously we win a penalty and convert the penalty there. But again, like I said, majority of the time we did well in playing out. We got over the halfway line in a good controlled state, and then it kind of just fell apart from there, apart from the odd few moments. So. And that was disappointing because leading up to this, we'd had lots of good kind of playing in moments from the other coaching journeys that we've done, and we created some decent chances. But in this particular game, we struggled a little bit. But let's have a look at the performance problems in terms of defensive organisation. And again, we're calling it high and low press, but it's actually dealing with direct play. And like I mentioned before, we lost the game 3-2, and I'm actually going to show you the 3 goals that we conceded. In terms of this performance problem and what it looked like in terms of trying to deal with that direct play and just not getting tight enough and first contact in a couple of moments, which really caused us problems. So first one I'm going to show you is the first goal that we conceded. So again, we're defending in a low press situation in terms of in and around our box, in and around our halfway line from throw-in. We actually deal with it's a little bit scrappy, but we deal with this okay because we get to a point where we can clear it. So we clear it. We don't quite get on these next bits here in terms of the second ball, and then here now I'll just show you. So as the kids chested it there, so our fullback, our right fullback, has took a step back when, like I said before, when it's going into players, get to first contact, and that's first contact on the player and as if you can on the ball. But even if you get first contact and get tight enough on the player, you might force a mistake. In turn, it's a good chest and a great volley. But again, we thought that could have been avoidable in terms of getting tighter on his first touch. Again here, if I pause it here, so this is actually a really good low press shape. So as you can see there, you can see our back four, you can see our defensive midfield player just in front, and then you can see our kind of our 2 attacking midfielders and our 2 wide forwards, nice and narrow, nice and compact. So this is a really good low press kind of defensive shape. What happens here is that the player on the ball plays a through pass to one of the centre forwards, which is fine because our centre back comes out. I'll just pause it there now. So our centre back comes out to deal with him. We've effectively got a 2v1 against this particular player with our defensive midfielder and our centre back. And we had, again, lots of moments like this where we weren't aggressive enough and physical enough in 1v1 duels, or even in a 2v1 duel here, where we should win this ball comfortably. In the end, it the player on the ball actually wriggles free. Next bit's a great little bit of skill and obviously a good finish, but again, not aggressive enough in those duels, and actually in a real good position to defend it, and letting him slip away and get to the point where he's got a free shot on goal to score. And this is the third goal. So at this point it's 2-1. And we're actually in the ascendancy, and we just missed the goalkeeper's got the ball here because we just missed a good opportunity to probably make it 2-2. This is a big moment in the game because there's probably 15 minutes left, maybe a little bit less, maybe 10-15 minutes left, and obviously we've allowed to concede a goal like this. So we're in an okay shape from here, from the goalkeeper being on the edge of the box with the ball in his hands. So we're actually in an okay shape in terms of. We could probably a little bit more compact in terms of the lines, as you can see there. So our midfield and our wide forwards could be a little bit deeper. But again, like dealing with direct play. So as this ball, I'm just going to pause it as this ball comes down now here. So again, left fullback, can he go and get tight enough? Whereas this kid can't bring the ball down like he does. So again, can you get first contact? So can you go and win a header? Or can you get tight enough where this particular player has not been able to bring the ball down, or you force him into a mistake? In terms of everybody else, we're actually in an okay shape, apart from our defensive midfield player who's right in the middle of the screen there. He should be a little bit deeper and more connected to our centre backs because of the 4-4-2. And you'll see as this rolls on, that's a big part of the problem. So again, tighter, can you get first contact? Don't get it. Allows the kid to get control. Now we're in a situation here now where we're pretty much 3-on-3 or 2-on-2. You can call it 2-on-2 with the player on the ball, and this is the problem. So if our defensive midfield player who's in the middle of the pitch walking, which is not ideal, if he's more connected to the centre backs and he's in and around that situation, now we've got a +1, and we don't get into a situation now where our fullback's about to try and get close to the ball, doesn't, and then obviously that leaves the player on the outside to be slipped in, who eventually takes a good touch and finishes it in the goal as well. So again, we just had lots of disappointing, obviously 3 really disappointing goals to concede and really disappointing moments to concede from direct play, which I appreciate it happens, but again, 2 or 3 times could we have won a header, 2 or 3 times could we have been got first contact, or at least got contact on a player enough to force a mistake, and then obviously been more aggressive in 1v1 duels as well, and in that particular case, our defensive midfield player just falling asleep a little bit and not being connected to our centre backs, which is really important when you're playing against a front 2 and not having that 2v2 on your defensive line. But again, when you're playing against a 4-4-2, obviously it's difficult in terms of staying connected. For a defensive midfield player in particular, it's difficult to stay connected out of possession when in possession you'd kind of playing your normal role. So that's something that we've got to look at and work towards for the future. So just looking at the metrics from that particular game, as you can see, if you compare these metrics to metrics from the previous 2 games we played before we got to the tournament, the numbers are a little bit lower than usual. Attacking organisation, obviously our target's 50%, obviously at 39. That's an average of the 2 scores, so that's an average of 49% playing out and 28% playing in. Fitting together. So playing out was okay. Playing in was lower than we'd want it to be, really. And like I said, I showed you those performance problems moments where we'd actually play out really well, get over the halfway line, and it kind of just fizzle out from there. And we didn't create enough chances to probably to score more goals and to get more chances on goal as well. Defensive transition was pretty good as usual in terms of in reacting and recovering. So we're quite happy with that. Defensive organisation, obviously that's a big drop off from what it's been in the previous 2 games before that. We're in the 70% in terms of the score that we got against the target. So to drop off to 56% was quite disappointing. Obviously in the high press and low press, and again talking about dealing with direct play. So the high press, dealing with direct players in and around the half, winning headers in and around the halfway line, winning first contact, which obviously I've just shown you the goals that we conceded, and that's same in and around your box. And again, talking about low press, and we call it low press because we want players to be aggressive in 1v1 duels or physical in 1v1 duels, where we can win the ball. And obviously the second goal where we've lost a 2v1, which makes it a little bit worse, but again, that's disappointing from our own standards. Attacking transition, again, in and around what it usually is. Possession in terms of winning the ball and possessing it, 81%, which is bang on target. And then obviously progressing, where in this particular game and in the next game as well, we were in that kind of mode of winning it and trying to go forward quickly, because obviously when you play against direct play, like I mentioned before, you get pushed back a little bit, especially if you don't deal with the first one. So when you do win the ball and you feel, and again, it's that psychology thing of instead of thinking correctly under pressure, it's more of a little bit of panic that the opposition in and around your penalty area, and you win it and you feel as though you've got to break and get forward and get away from your goal, where again we're much better if we keep control, keep possession, or get possession, get into our attacking shape, and then go from there. So again, attacking transition, obviously the average is as low as it is because of the progress bit. And in this particular game, we seem to have more kind of opportunities, or we have more attempts at progressing and then obviously whether it's a success or a failure than we have in particular games, and that's usually because the players win the ball and they try to progress instead of possess. But again, and what we do around these metrics as well is like I said, because this is a great tool to analyse your game, and it gives you clear kind of clarity on what you need to improve or what you need to work on going either from game to game, which is the situation that we're in here, or going from game to training to game situations. And what we try to do is, what we'll do is we'll do a video in the next few weeks where we explain exactly how we work the metrics. But it's all around scores around these particular targets. So, like I mentioned in the attacking organisation, for example, playing out, our target is to get over the halfway line in a controlled state 50% of the time. So that's literally breaking over the halfway line, either a dribble or a pass. Obviously, playing in is breaking into the opposition's penalty area with a dribble or a pass, or getting a shot on target from outside the penalty area. So that's how. And what we'll do is we'll mark an attempt at playing in, which was when we have the ball in our own half, and then we'll mark it as a success or a failure if we get over the halfway line or if we don't. And we do that for all of them. But we'll do a video on it in a few weeks to show you exactly how we calculate the metrics, and we'll probably do it in and around a couple of Premier League games when the Premier League starts again. But overall, slightly disappointing for the first game, slightly disappointing performance. Because we felt our standards were a little bit lower than they usually are, and we felt that we could have got a result out of that game, bar some mistakes. So and that's a tough place to start when you lose your first game in tournament football in a group stage. It's a tough place to start. So obviously then you're under a little bit of pressure in the next games. Okay, so let's get into game 2, or our game plan for the second game against Alaska Rush Soccer Club. And again, this game plan was based around 15 minutes of one of their games that we caught towards the end when we were when we were leaving from our first game. We caught 15 minutes of their first game as well. So it gave us a little bit of an idea of kind of what we were up against. And what we needed to do, and obviously having all that in mind that we needed to try and improve on from our first game as well. So we knew from watching them that there were going to be a 4-2-3-1, which was obviously a better matchup for us, obviously wanting to play 4-3-3. So we knew that going in, and again it was we knew we were going to be dealing with a team with direct style of play. So anything from their goalkeeper out of his hands, goal kicks, centre backs in possession, even full backs in possession, we knew that it was going to be direct, and it was going to be kind of onto our defensive line immediately. So we needed to be able to, one, try and deal with that at source if it was in open play from centre backs and from full backs. And two, if it wasn't, can we deal with that direct play a little bit better than we did do in the first game? But again, just checking in on the game model of the 4 phases, and obviously trying to control the opposition in all these 4 phases. So again, we knew that defensive organisation, we were going to have to be much better than we were in the first game in terms of dealing with that direct play, and even dealing with and being more kind of physical and aggressive in 1v1 duels. Especially in and around our box, and we needed to make sure that we were up for dealing with direct play a lot more than we were in the first game. Leading into attacking transition again, not panicking in those attacking transition moments, not trying to progress forward quickly when we don't have any options, or 2, we don't really have a plan. And trying to get possession of the ball, trying to keep possession of the ball, using our overload, which was more available to us in this game, obviously with the opposition playing 4-2-3-1, using our overload in our 2 centre-backs or our defensive line and our goalkeeper, which would allow us to get into our attacking organisation. And then from there, obviously, even in the first game, doing quite well in playing out moments, can we now add that playing in moments where we get in and around the opposition's penalty area more, in the opposition's penalty area more, and create better chances on goal for goal scoring opportunities. So that was kind of the plan, and obviously defensive transition always stays the same. Can we react quickly or force the opposition backwards? So but that was part of the plan for this. But let's have a little bit more look at attacking organisation in terms of playing out, because there was a couple of things we noticed in that 15 minutes of their particular game as well. So we just needed to be aware of that. So in terms of playing out, normal structure, in terms of our first line being our 2 centre-backs and our goalkeeper supporting low, second line being our full-backs, right and left back, and our central defensive midfield player, Third line being our 2 attacking midfield players, and then our fourth line being our centre forward and 2 wide forwards. Now, the only slight little thing in terms of playing out, whether it be from open play or from a goal kick situation, or whether our goalkeeper's on the ball from open play, the only thing we needed to be slightly aware of was, from what we saw in that 15 minutes, was that their left wide forward, so the red number 11 in this particular picture, would just maybe push on to looking to press our centre back. So we just had to be aware of that. And it wasn't an aggressive, like, all-out press, and it didn't look like it was a planned one where their fullback jumps on or one of their midfielders jumps out to our fullback. I think it was a little bit of a case of, like, if that particular player felt that he could go and get closer to our centre back in possession when the ball's coming across the pitch, I think he just kind of made that choice. So we just made the boys aware that could be a possibility. And that was all we had to really look for in terms of attacking organisation and playing out, in terms of what they were going to do in a press. And apart from that, it was normal routine for us in terms of playing out. So just looking at defensive organisation in terms of, again, calling it high press and low press, where actually it's dealing with direct play again. So. And obviously it was from goal kicks, and if we were going to have plenty of chances and plenty of possession in and around the opposition penalty area, then obviously when you're doing that and you're trying to create chances on goal, you're probably going to concede lots more goal kicks, or even opportunities for the goalkeeper to get the ball in his hands from crosses or from through balls or whatever. So we just needed to make sure that we were aware and ready to deal with this particular direct play. And again, talking to the players in the defensive line about, starting that high line in around the halfway line, getting that body position right, that side on position right, getting ready to drop if you need to, but then obviously winning first contact, whether that's a header or a volley, or if it's going into one of their players, can you make it really difficult for them to get the ball under control and force a mistake. So our structure was normal in terms of high press, in terms of first line being our centre forward and our 2 wide forwards high and compact, just in case they do attempt to play out. Second line was our centre midfield player, our central attacking midfield player. Third line was our 2 central midfield players or defensive midfield players, and then our fourth line was going to be our 2 centre backs and our 2 full backs, narrow and compact. And again, just dealing with that first contact, and then making sure that we can pick up second balls in and around that as well. So making players in midfield aware that we need to jump on those second balls as well, and try and get possession and be able to move into our attacking transition from there. So from that, let's have a look at the game review against Alaska Rush, and this was a much better performance from the boys. Obviously against a slightly lesser opposition than what we played in the first game, but still, you've still got to play and beat what's in front of you. We managed to win this game 3-1, which was great. We pretty much dominated the game from start to finish and conceded a late goal towards the end of the game, I think with like a minute or so to go. So and we could have scored a lot more with a little bit better quality finishing in and around the penalty area, which wasn't really a playing-in kind of factor, but it was more of a just that final touch and that final little bit of quality. But so just to check in on the game review, so systems of play was a positive matchup. They did play 4-2-3-1. They didn't surprise us with anything. So the first performance problem we're going to look at again is defensive organisation, calling it high and low press. But it's a performance problem again of dealing with direct play, and obviously making sure that we can do that, and that's something that moving forward, that's from this particular tournament, that's something that we've got to work on moving forward, and we'll talk about that in the next couple of weeks when we talk about the review of this whole coaching journey with this particular team and moving forward with them. But let's have a look at some of the performance problems that we faced within the defensive organisation. And obviously playing against a team that plays really direct, and what we could have done a little bit better. So the first one, look at goalkeeper kicking it out of his hands. Obviously, didn't quite get good first contact on that one, didn't quite get on the second ball, which then allows the opposition to win the ball in and around your defensive half. Again, not quite physical and aggressive enough in a 1v1 duel. Obviously good cover in terms of coming across, picking the ball up, but again now just attacking transition again there. Look, just causing yourself a little bit of a problem by not using your left foot to pass it down the line, and then giving the opposition a throw it, and then continue to be in your low press. But again, all from not dealing with direct play, not getting a solid header on that ball and heading it back 15 to 20 yards nice and high and wide, and then being able to give yourself a bit of time to get in and around the second ball. So Next one we're going to look at again, okay, is a direct play from a free kick this time. Okay, not dealt with the first one, not won the header. Done okay in the 1v1, obviously, and then given the ball away again in this particular area instead of clearing it down the line. Again, now we're defending in and around our box. Okay, obviously, needed, again, trying to get away in second transition, just get control of the ball, losing it again, staying in that low press, again physicality in a 1v1 duel, and then obviously not closing down and allowing a shot on goal. So again, from direct play, just not because we're not dealing with the first one, it just allows the team to push up, get bodies in and around the ball, create a bit of a compact state where it's difficult to play out of. Final one, which was a good opportunity for them, a goal. Again, goal kick, not a great goal kick, not won the first one. We kind of won the second one, but then giving it away in attacking transition, trying to play forward again, trying to go too soon. And again, obviously not reacting as well as we usually do. Again, physicality, 1v1 duel, not winning possession of the ball, then allowing that over the top. And then obviously they're getting to a point now where, again, physicality in a 1v1 duel, not quite winning it, and probably should have been punished from this, but got away with it. So again, it's just, all these little things come from not dealing with that first one, not dealing with that direct play. And if you deal with that direct play, then none of the rest of it happens. And there's obviously going to be times where a team does break through you and get opportunities on goal, because that's part of the game. That's why it's probably the most popular game in the world. But because teams can always create something in an attack and always have a chance on goal. And again, but when you're playing against these types of teams, if you don't deal with that direct play and get solid headers on the ball or solid contact on the ball, and then react quickly, getting in and around the second ball, then obviously you can get into situations like this. And what we'll find again a little bit as well with the level of these boys is that, obviously one little mistake can lead to second mistake, third mistake, and a little bit of panic. So that's something where we talk to the boys about thinking correctly under pressure and trying to deal with those direct balls, and direct play is critical to that as well. So the next performance problem we're going to look at in this particular game was attacking transition, and this will show up again in the metrics, very similar to the last game. Again, trying to progress the ball straight away in terms of winning it, and obviously winning the ball back and winning the ball back well, and then obviously trying to progress it straight away. And again, Not that it's an excuse or anything like that, but again, when you're in the situation where you lose your first game in tournament football, then you go into your second game and you're playing against a team where you're kind of dominating the game and you're doing really well in the game. Then all of a sudden, lots of goals starts to play into players' minds because they think that goal difference might come into it, and the joys of performance football and the psychological little things that go on, especially after losing your first game. So again, we seem to have a lot of attempts at attacking transition, trying to progress it when we could have just kept it and probably created more chances from there. And I'll show you a clip of why we kind of talked to the boys about possessing it more than trying to progress it straight away. But we'll show you the difficult bits first in terms of the performance problem around progressing it and what could be better. So the first one, again, so obviously opposition in possession. We win the ball back quite well in terms of in and around midfield. So we win the ball back around here, and obviously I'll just pause it there. And again, the first one, in terms of we win comfortable possession there. He could turn. I know you might think it's negative, but he could turn. Fullbacks free, goalkeepers free, centre backs free. Again, first pass forward's fine. Just trying to force the next one, and obviously playing straight through to the goalkeeper. Didn't really need to do it. Could have kept it going down the right hand side to our right forward and got him in a 1v1. So it was little situations like that. But again, we had obviously lots of situations like that in terms of obviously winning the ball back. But this is something now that I want, and this is actually good practice, because we had lots of situations like the first one. Where we're trying to force the ball forward too quickly, and that's why we, in terms of attacking transition, it was difficult. But this is why now we talk to the boys about, look, if we get possession of the ball and we keep it for 2 or 3 passes, we have got a much better chance of creating chances on goal and scoring goals by getting into attacking organisation, and this is a perfect example of it. So good defending here, win the ball, play back to the goalkeeper. As you can see here, so their left wide forward has decided to press, but he's obviously miles off. Play to our full back, play into our right wide forward now. So again, this is all from attacking transition and just playing that ball back and getting control of the ball and using our overload, using our goalkeeper. Good little bit of play in terms of getting into playing in. A good cross, not quite worked out. Probably could have attacked the ball a little bit better. But again, now, like in terms of this part now we're able to sustain attacks in the opposition's half, and we're able to keep possession and keep moving the ball in the opposition's half. And this is where we want to be, and this is where we tell the boys we want to be all the time. And again, so if we can just control that attacking transition, rather than trying to fly forward and get and create chances, if we actually keep it and then play out and play in, and do create chances like that, then we've got more chance of creating chances. And again, here, look, so this is now, so that's like nearly 30 seconds to a minute of attacking, being in possession and attacking in the opposition's half, and we've still got a throw in where we can continue to attack in the opposition's half. So again, just a crystal clear example of what this team really needs to work on, and that's a decision making of, do we need to go forward straight away and fly at it, or can we just keep it, get into attacking organisation and do some of the good things we've just shown in that particular clip in the video, in terms of like when we're in attacking organisation, we're not bad and we can create chances that way. And that's something that we need to really try and stamp down with the boys in particular. Okay, so and then finally, the final point I just wanted to show you, just so it's not all negative and not all performance problems, was in this particular game, the attacking organisation playing out and playing in, as you saw at the back end of that clip, those clips there was really good. And I'm going to show you a couple of the goals we scored in the game, which were really good moments for us, and gave the boys a little bit of confidence, especially after the first game. But again, we're good in these moments, or we do really well in these moments. So it's important that we get to these moments as quick as we can. Good pass here from the centre-back into our attacking midfielder on the opposite side of the pitch. Good play out to our opposite forward. Brilliant run from our attacking midfielder. So wide forward into attacking midfielder, which we work on all the time. And then a brilliant finish at the end of it as well. So, and again, lots of little things in this game, playing out and playing in, came from some of the stuff that we've worked on. So again, really good little bit of possession in here now. Obviously, like, lose it in that bit. Brilliant reaction in terms of winning it back. And again, good little bit of attacking transition here. Look, keeping the ball, keeping possession, 2 or 3 passes, allows us to get back into our playing in shape now. Again, brilliant run from attacking midfield player. That Kevin De Bruyne run in between centre-back and full-back. Decent cross. Again, keeping the play alive. And then a great finish at the end of it as well. So again, it's just moments like that, like where we're attacking, we're playing in, we're doing well. We lose possession, we react really well in terms of defensive transition. We get it, keep it in attacking transition, and then we start to create chances again through that playing out and playing in. And then our final goal, which was really good, and again a good little bit of moment. So a good free kick here in terms of playing in, playing out to our fullback who's in space. Wide into our front forward. Again, brilliant run from our attacking midfielder. Again, the Kevin De Bruyne one that's really good. Good little drag cross, and then a great finish as well for the third goal. So again, keep saying to the boys all the time, if we can get into attacking transition as much as possible in a game, we will have good chances of winning the game because of how well we can play out and play in. And obviously, the transition moments are so key to that. And if you can control those transition moments, you can control the game. So for us, obviously, and then if we can get better at obviously dealing with direct play and then keeping those transition moments and controlling those transition moments, then we've got a good chance against most teams and stuff. But again, really pleasing performance, good 3-1 win, and good to get back on track after that first game defeat. Again, and reflected really well in the metrics again as well, in terms of the what we're looking for in all the targets, etc. So looking at attacking organisation, obviously that the average is low in terms of 43%, trying to get it around 50. But if you look down at the playing out, 50% of the time we had it, we got over the halfway line in a controlled state, which is what we want. That's a perfect target for playing out. Playing in, obviously 36%, which is a lot better than, which is a 8% growth on the last game. So that's a lot better in terms of getting into the penalty area of the opposition and creating chances. So obviously in this particular game, would have liked playing out to be a little bit higher. So then we get that average around a little bit higher, up and around 50%. Again, defensive transition really good as usual. Average obviously 81%. Reacting was good, even though it's at 63%. Seems a bit lower than the 80, but that's fine because even though if we didn't react, we'd recover really well and force the opposition backwards. As you can see here, we dealt with direct play a lot better in terms of the high press part. So when we're in and around the halfway line, we, apart from the couple of performance problems I showed you, the high press part was really good. When we didn't deal with that, obviously, we didn't deal with the lower press kind of situations. And when we talk about lower press, like we have high and low press. We don't kind of talk about like mid blocks and that sort of stuff. And mid press is like so. Anything like 10-15 yards deeper than the halfway line is a low press for us. So sometimes, like in the clip that I showed you, where we didn't quite deal with the first one, and then it ends up in and around that middle, kind of that third in between the halfway line and our penalty area. When it ends up in the middle of the pitch there, that's kind of where we, when we don't get first contact and we don't win the second ball, that's where we can struggle a little bit. So that was a little bit lower. And obviously, like those moments where, like I showed you in the clip, where we actually won possession but then gave them a throw in our half and not being physical again in 1v1 duels. That's why the low press is really low. But we actually did really well and a little bit better dealing with direct play in this particular game, apart from the little performance problems I showed you. But dealing with the high press much better in this particular game. And then they're again attacking transition and the 59%. Obviously that average, and again that average is that low because of trying to progress it. And the performance problems I showed you, possess it 81%. So like when we got it and kept it, for 2 or 3 passes, we were really good in attacking transition. When we tried to progress it, we were really low again. So, and it just, from that clip I showed you as well, where the time that we did get it and get into attacking organisation, we were great. And we did really well. And it's trying to get the boys to understand if we can get more into those moments and the decision making around getting it, keeping it, using your overload, even if you're playing back to your goalkeeper when you're in and around the middle of the pitch, that's okay, because you get into attacking organisation, you get organised, and then you can do what you're good at from there. So, but like I mentioned, much better performance than the first game, and a little bit closer to what we're about. Apart from still a couple of those performance problems that we saw from the first game as well. Okay guys, that's it for week 10. Thank you for watching. Coming up in week 11 is a game review of our final group game against Hawaii Rush in the regional tournament over in Hawaii. And then I'm going to do a little bit of a coaching journey to reflections and review around this particular team and kind of like some of the stuff they need to work on and some of the stuff that is really important getting right to execute the type of game model that we've introduced to them and that obviously we promote in and around on our website and stuff. So that's all going to come up in week 11. Again, website's live, positionspecific.com. If you want to go and check it out, everything that we talk about, everything that we've shown you in the coaching journey is all on there. Obviously in the game model, we've also got foundation models and youth models in terms of building individuals. We've also got a player individual model where if you're coaching a team of 16, 17 players and you're following our stuff and you're executing and delivering our stuff that we have on our website, you can also get your players to sign up where they can go and work on the same stuff away from practice. And what we found, particularly at the club I'm working at here in Utah, is that's just accelerated progression a little bit. And that's accelerated development a little bit, which has been fantastic for us. So go check that out and get on board. If you like, obviously, if you're new to us in terms of YouTube channel, then please hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, please give it a like, and any comments or questions, stick them in the comments below. We do like to hear from you, and we do reply to everybody as well. So, but yeah, until week 11, we'll see you soon. Thank you.